Dyatlov Pass. This story still excites the minds of researchers and mystery lovers. In the winter of 1959, 9 hikers from the Ural Polytechnic Institute set out on a ski trek through the northern Urals. The leader was Igor Dyatlov, an experienced hiker, power engineer, only 23 years old. The group also included 7 more students and graduates, as well as 1 instructor. They were all well prepared, seasoned hikers who had completed many expeditions, and they aimed to achieve the highest difficulty category for their route. On February 1st, the group stopped on the slope of Mount Kholat-Syakhl, which in the Mansi language translates to Mountain of the Dead. In the evening, they pitched their tent directly on the open slope, even though there was a forest nearby where they could have sheltered from the wind. Why they chose that particular spot remains a debated question to this day. When searchers finally found their trail after several weeks, they encountered a horrific scene. The tent was still in place but had been cut open from the inside. Their belongings, clothes, and shoes were left inside. Judging by the tracks, the hikers had fled in panic, some in socks, some barefoot, into the freezing cold of -30 degrees. The bodies were found within a radius of 1.5 kilometers. 2 were lying by a campfire in the forest, almost undressed. 3 tried to return to the tent but froze along the way. The other 4 were found later in a ravine. And here the strangest details emerged. Some had severe internal injuries, broken ribs, fractured skulls, without external wounds. Lyudmila Dubinina was missing her eyes and tongue. The official conclusion of 1959 sounded mysterious. Death resulted from the impact of an irresistible force. To this day, many theories exist: avalanche, snow slab, military testing, escaped prisoners, infrasound, even a UFO attack. In 2019, the Russian Prosecutor General's office conducted a new investigation and concluded it was an avalanche. But many researchers argue an avalanche could not explain all the injuries and oddities. Dyatlov Pass remains one of the main mysteries of the 20th century in Russia. The Khamar-Daban Tragedy. This story happened in the summer of 1993 and in many ways resembles Dyatlov Pass, only in a more modern era. Instructor Lyudmila Korovina led a group of teenagers on a hike through the Khamar-Daban Mountains in Buryatia. There were 7 people in total, including Korovina herself. According to the only survivor, Valentina Yudichenko, it all began suddenly. First, one of the hikers felt extreme weakness, foam came from his mouth, and he began convulsing. Then the others started dying, literally one after another, with the same symptoms: bleeding, convulsions, sharp pain. Lyudmila Korovina herself died before her students' eyes. Valentina miraculously survived. She managed to run down the slope and spent several days reaching people. What exactly happened? There is still no definitive answer. Some researchers suggest the group was poisoned by plants or mushrooms they ate. Others propose a release of toxic gas. The area is geologically active. Some point to military tests or accidental exposure to an unknown chemical cloud. But none of the theories explain all the symptoms. Documentation about the tragedy was poorly preserved, and the only witness told her story years later, when details had already faded from memory. That is why the mystery of Khamar-Daban remains unsolved. The disappearance of Flight MH370. One of the most mysterious tragedies in modern aviation history. On March 8, 2014, Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 departed from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. On board were 239 people, passengers and crew. The Boeing 777 was considered a reliable aircraft. An hour after takeoff, the plane stopped communicating and vanished from radar. At first, a crash was suspected, but no wreckage was found. The largest search in aviation history began. Dozens of countries joined the operation, scouring vast areas of the Indian Ocean. Years later, only a few pieces of debris washed ashore on African coasts and Indian Ocean islands confirmed to belong to MH370. But where the plane itself is and why it disappeared remains a mystery. Main theories: a crash due to mechanical failure, a terrorist hijacking, deliberate actions by the pilot. There are suspicions he may have directed the plane into the ocean. Military experiments or outside interference. In 2018, the international investigation released a final report stating plainly, the cause of the disappearance could not be determined. This story became a symbol that even in the 21st century, with all our technology, a massive plane with hundreds of people can simply vanish. The mystery of the Mary Celeste. This is one of the oldest maritime mysteries, still inspiring writers and researchers. On December 4, 1872, the brig, Mary Celeste, was found abandoned in the Atlantic Ocean. It was spotted by the British ship, Dei Grazia. When sailors boarded, they found the vessel seaworthy, sails raised, its cargo of alcohol intact, and enough food and water to last the crew months. But the strangest thing, there was no one on board. All the crew's belongings, documents, and personal items were still there. No signs of struggle or panic were found. It seemed as if the people had simply vanished. This story gave rise to dozens of theories. Some suggested pirate attacks, but then why was the cargo untouched? Others speculated about an alcohol vapor explosion, but the ship was intact. Some blamed a storm and a forced evacuation that ended in tragedy. The most mystical theories involved sea monsters and UFOs. The story of the Mary Celeste became so famous that even Arthur Conan Doyle wrote a tale inspired by it. And although more than 150 years have passed, the mystery remains unsolved. The disappearance of Amelia Earhart. Amelia Earhart was one of the most famous female pilots in history. In 1932, she became the first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic Ocean. Her name was known worldwide. She was a symbol of progress and courage. In 1937, Earhart attempted a round-the-world flight with her navigator Fred Noonan. On July 2nd, their Lockheed Electra departed from La Island in New Guinea and was bound for the small Howland Atoll in the Pacific Ocean. But they never reached their destination. In her last transmission, Earhart reported problems with navigation and fuel. After that, radio silence. Massive search efforts began. Dozens of U.S. Navy ships and planes took part. But no trace was found. Theories abound. The plane crashed into the ocean and sank. The pilots ended up on an uninhabited island and died there. Earhart and Noonan were captured by the Japanese, as their route passed near military zones. Conspiracy theories suggest she was on a secret U.S. mission. Occasionally, fragments and items are found on islands that could have belonged to Earhart's crew. But no definitive proof exists. Her disappearance remains one of the loudest mysteries of the 20th century. The disappearance of the Norfolk Regiment. World War I brought countless tragedies, but the story of the disappearance of an entire British Army unit remains controversial. In August 1915, during the Dardanelles campaign in Turkey, the Sandringham Battalion of the Norfolk Regiment was ordered to advance. According to witnesses, the soldiers marched into a thick fog that suddenly enveloped the area. About 250 men entered it, and they were never seen again. After the battle, they were searched for, but never found. The Turks denied capturing them. Later, only a few bodies were discovered, but the fate of the main group remained unknown. This fueled many rumors. Theories include: they came under heavy fire and were wiped out. They were encircled and captured, but the information was hidden. The more mystical version, they were swallowed by the fog. Eyewitness accounts described a strange cloud the battalion marched into. This story was long the subject of legends and conspiracy theories, but it remains unresolved to this day.